Okay, the reading for this week is the next part in our series on classical, medieval, early modern, and Meiji period Japanese civilization, culture, society. And today we will be reading the Charter Oath of the Meiji Restoration. The original Japanese is the五箇条の御誓文. 五箇条の御誓文. And I'll put the original 5 articles of this oath in the description below, so we'll look at it in the original Japanese and in the English translation that we have here. And this English translation, once again, was taken from William Theodore de Barry's Sources of Japanese Tradition, Volume 2 is the one that deals with the modern period. And I'll put the link to that book below in the description. Okay, this is a very short oath, so this will be a short video. And we'll discuss the oath and the historical background in the context of the Bunmei Kaika and the Meiji Restoration and the the westernization of Japanese society and culture and so forth in more detail in class. Here I just want to read the introduction and the oath itself. Okay, so the introduction here on your PDF worksheet that you have for the Charter Oath of the Meiji Restoration, or the Meiji Ishin, 1868, it was promulgated. The Charter Oath was a short but very important public document issued in April 1868. So the Gannen, the first year of the Meiji period, is 1868. By the way, if you haven't memorized the major dates of the Japanese eras, the dates of the major Japanese eras yet, do so immediately. I'll put the dates, as always, in the description below. Okay, the Charter Oath was a short but very important public document issued in April 1868, just months after the Meiji Restoration brought an end to the Tokugawa shogunate. So you remember the Tokugawa era lasted from 1600 all the way to 1867, 1868, and it was toppled, thus initiating the Meiji period. It brought an end to the Tokugawa shogunate and installed a new Japanese government. Issued in the name of the Emperor Meiji, who was only 15 years old at the time of the Meiji Restoration. The text was written by a group of the young samurai, mainly from domains in southwestern Japan. So Satsuma no Kuni and so forth. We'll go over which domains were most important in this movement to topple the Tokugawa shogunate and to reinstall or to install the Meiji Emperor as the head of the new Japan that they were seeking to create. We'll go over that in class. The text was written by a group of the young samurai from the domains in southwestern Japan who had led the overthrow of the Tokugawa and the restoration of imperial rule. The Charter Oath appeared at a time of considerable uncertainty in Japanese society, as people throughout the country were unsure of the intentions and priorities of the new regime governing Japan. Okay, that's the short introductory blurb that you have on your study sheet. Now here is the the 5 articles of the Charter Oath. And before I read that, I want to read the study questions that you have, and we'll answer these in class, so consider them as you read the oath. Question number 1, why did the leaders of the Meiji Restoration feel it necessary to issue the Charter Oath? Okay, so what was their motivation in your view? Question 2, how would you have reacted to this document as a Japanese samurai, as a bushi? At the time, remember that in the traditional Confucian structure, which lasted all throughout the Tokugawa era, we have the bushi class at the very top, the shi no ko sho structure that I've talked about in other videos. The samurai, the peasants or the farmers were under them, theoretically at least, followed by the artisans, and then the merchants, nominally or theoretically, at the bottom. But with the Meiji Restoration, we have the abolition of this class structure, and the bushi find themselves no longer at the top. So the question here is, how would you have reacted to this document as a Japanese bushi, or samurai, at the time? What if you were a warrior from the Tokugawa clan? How would you have reacted? What if you had been a peasant or an urban merchant? So what if you had been in the no category, or in the sho category that is theoretically at the bottom? How would you have reacted? Discuss those. All right, question number 3. What do you think the authors of this document meant by quote-unquote deliberative assemblies and quote-unquote public discussion? Does this suggest a commitment to democratic rule? All right, so we'll talk about the importation of democratic ideas that were slowly trickling in from the West at the time, and we'll talk about the extent to which the Japanese government was actually committed to those ideals. And question number 4: what did the authors of the Charter Oath believe to be the quote-unquote quote evil customs of the past, unquote? And question number 5: from your further study of the history of Meiji Japan, did the new government live up to the goals established in the Charter Oath? Okay, so this will be a question where we imagine ourselves standing at the end of Meiji, or in the middle of Taisho, or in the middle of Showa, looking back and evaluating the extent to which the Japanese lived up to these ideals that are here in this Charter Oath, which I shall now read. Okay, the Charter Oath, 1868. By this oath we set up as our aim the establishment of the national weal on a broad basis and the framing of the constitution and laws. You remember that the Meiji Constitution was produced in 1888, 1889, and enacted in 1890. So the Constitution itself didn't come for another 20 years, but this refers to the Constitution that they were starting to think about. All right. By this oath, we set up as our aim the establishment of the national weal on a broad basis in the framing of a constitution and laws. Oath, Article number 1. Deliberative assemblies shall be widely established and all matters decided by public discussion. Okay, so this democratic ideal here of all matters being decided by the public through debate and dialogue rather than warfare and so forth. Article 2. All classes, so all of the traditional Confucian hierarchical classes from the Shi to the Sho at the bottom, all classes high and low shall unite in vigorously carrying out the administration of affairs of state. Okay, so it won't be the Shizoka, it won't be the Bushi class alone that decides affairs of state from this point on. All classes will be involved in the affairs of state. Article 3. The common people, the shomin, no less than the civil and military officials, shall each be allowed to pursue his own calling so that there may be no discontent. Okay, so you can pursue your own calling. Underline that. This is a very important change from the previous Tokugawa society, right? If you're born in the peasant or farming class, you had to be a peasant in the old society, and this is saying you can choose your fate, you can choose your future. Article 4, evil customs of the past shall be broken off and everything based upon just laws of nature. So underline laws of nature. We'll discuss what they mean by that in the context of 1868. What are these laws of nature that they're referring to? Obviously, their idea of laws of nature are different than the sort of Confucian ideas of laws of nature that were held in the past. They're referring to a sort of Western idea of the laws of nature, and underline evil customs as well. Talk about what they mean by evil customs. What exactly are they referring to? And the final article is article number 5. Knowledge shall be sought throughout the world so as to strengthen the foundations of imperial rule. Okay, so there seems to be this tension here between this call for democracy and the democratization of society and the participation of all classes and so forth, and then at the same time this bolstering of imperial rule. Okay, so this last article has to do with imperial rule and its strengthening. All right, we'll discuss this more in class. I will see you then. Goodbye.